Hey everyone, I really like my coaching routines, but this latest one was hard. In this video, I'll share with you why and what needs to change with both my attitude and my game if I am going to get as good as I want to be. So having not been for a couple of months, I decided to go for a 2-hour session with my coach, Colin Matty, who's a WPBSA First for Sport Level 2 coach, and he's actually studying to be a Level 3 coach. I mean, if you look at the page on the WPBSA website on coaching, he's right there in the picture. I usually really enjoy these sessions because one, Colin is a nice guy, and two, he gives me new routines to take home and try, and also to show you guys in new videos. But this time it was really hard, and I learned some home truths about my game. It felt a bit like I need to go back to basics, but stick around to the end of the video to find out what the most fundamental thing I learned from this session was. Colin always asks how my snooker has been going. I told him I've played quite a lot of frames and matches, which is the truth. Because of that, my solo practice has suffered a little bit. So I said I was pretty happy that my tactical game was improving, but my potting and my break building really was stagnating, and I don't think it was any better than I last saw him 2 or 3 months ago. He asked me how my breaks normally come to an end, and I said it's sometimes a bit of running out of position, forcing me into a more difficult pot, or to be honest, I just sometimes miss pots I really should be getting at my level. He asked me what else I wanted to work on the session, and I also said I wanted to look at my cueing when I'm playing with high power, because I don't think I'm cueing straight. But it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. The session began with Colin fixing my Q-tip after I'd made a bit of a mess of it fitting a new one. Not the usual warm-up, I admit, but I'm glad it got sorted anyway. After fixing the tip, we did do a warm-up, and that was basically spreading all 21 balls out onto the table in random positions, but trying to avoid cushions and trying to make sure they all went in at least one pocket. The idea was to clear them in as fewer shots as possible, and I actually played pretty well at this part, probably the best I played in the entire session, as you'll see. Next, he got me to try 5 long straight reds from the blue spot, and this is a fairly common routine he'll get me to do just to have a look at my action to see what's going on with it. Anyway, I'm going to play these 5 shots in fairly quick order in the video, and let's have a look at them. Let me know in the comments if you can see a pattern developing with these 5 shots. Yes, that's right, they all went to the left of the pocket. Colin actually noticed that I actually wasn't lining up quite right, and I was also cueing across the ball, and he said one actually might be causing the other. So let's take a look at those in a bit more detail. In terms of not lining up properly, he suggested that my walk-in could be to blame. I stand quite far back when I'm lining up the shot, a bit like Neil Robertson and his crucible antics of not being enough room. And it's okay for him because he's well over 6 foot, but I'm only 5'10", so I don't really need to stand that far back. And I basically stand that far back, line up the shot, and then take 1 or 2 fairly significant steps into my shot position. By taking these big steps though, I actually might be moving slightly offline when I get down to the shot. And what I probably need to do is get closer to my actual standing position when I'm lining up the shot. So I just have to basically have a shuffle to get down on the shot, and that might help me get down in the line of the shot. To fix this, I need to start off closer. I need to line up the shot while I'm closer to the cue ball. About a cue's length away is about right, probably. This should help me stay on the line of the shot better when I'm getting down into position. That is assuming I'm lining up the shot properly in the first place. More on that later. But I'm also having trouble cueing straight, not just at power, but generally I'm having trouble on anything but the really soft, gentle shot. I'm typically cueing over to the left on delivery. This is making the cue ball go off to the right and then the object ball off to the left, which is why I'm always hitting the left of the pocket in these 5 long red shots I did. To fix this, it's just as simple as keep on practicing cueing straight. Try and get my elbow back behind my head, because this was an issue I had a few months back, which I thought I'd resolved, but looking at this footage, I can see that it's drifted back down again. The way I'm going to improve this is by using a cue trainer. This is a pretty simple device made of plastic. It stands on the table. It's about the size of a cue ball. It's got a hole in the middle. And the idea is you cue through it as you would play a shot and try not to touch the trainer. The good thing about this is I can practice at home, in the club, and I can also take it away with me when I work away, as you've probably seen in a previous shot I did when I was actually practicing this a bit in my hotel room. But that was, to be honest, more for the video than the actual practice. So the one I have, I bought off eBay, but I don't actually like it. It's really flimsy, and I actually think the hole in in the middle is slightly too small for my cue. I know that sounds crazy because the smaller the hole, the more precise I need to be, but it's really, really, really difficult, much more difficult than the one that Colin has. I'm basically in the market for another one, so we'll see if I can find one because they're quite difficult to come by. So let me know if you know where I can buy one of these from, or if you're even prepared to have a go of making me one. And then what I'll do is I'll basically practice this for a month, maybe every day. Hopefully it'll be a future video. Next, we worked on close cue ball control to see if that was affecting my break building. And to do that, we used two routines. The first of which was a fairly simple red lineup along the middle of the table with the middle one on the blue spot and the others about 2 ball widths apart. It's very similar to the central part of the eye line routine I've been doing. So I was really confident with this one because I thought I'd find it easy. But then Colin said, actually, you need to get all these in the same middle pocket and not use the other 5 pockets on the table. So I really struggled. With this. I didn't actually manage it in the room with Colin. I just couldn't get the cue ball control going. But that same evening, I went to the snooker club and I tried it on my own with nobody else watching and on the table that I'm used to. I actually managed to do it. The first time I did it was actually only my second attempt, but it wasn't the cleanest of attempts because it wasn't nice, gentle stun shots like you're supposed to use, although I did actually end up doing that after a few more attempts. And then what I did is I tried to do it again, but starting at the other end of the reds. And I found this one a bit trickier when I started from the right-hand side of the reds as I looked at them. And it took me a few more attempts to get another successful go at that. So I'm going to keep working on this, and even though I've managed to do it, I think one of the problems I have with these routines is once I've done them, I stop practicing them, and that's not good. I need to keep going with them. So I want to be able to get this one down to be able to do it in sort of, I don't know, maybe like 5 in 10 goes or something like that. So I'm going to practice this over the next few weeks. Before we look at the next routine we use to look at my cue ball control, please like the video if you do, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've actually lost a few subs over the last few days for whatever reason, not sure. But it would really give me a boost to know that this video has actually brought in a few more subs. So if you are watching this and you're not subscribed, please do consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. But to be honest, the best thing you can do in terms of supporting me and my channel is just watching my videos to the end, because that doesn't half massage the YouTube suggestions algorithm, if you like. Might mean that my next video gets shown to more people. So the next cue ball control routine we did was just a simple open table clearance routine with the balls in fixed positions. It was a setup I wasn't familiar with, but it's very similar to one I've used before. If you'd watched my attempts at getting a 50 break earlier on in the year, Colin gave me a goal here of basically trying to consistently get a 20 or 30 break with every attempt. And what I mean by attempt is essentially you play the table through to a clearance and hope that you get a 30 break. Now, I mean, that could be a colours clearance, to be honest, so that's not too bad, because what you do with this routine is if you miss a colour, you put it back on its spot, even if you don't pot it. And also, if you miss, you can move the cue ball. What I want to do is practice this over the next few weeks as well. I probably won't set the balls in these exact positions because I don't want to put marks on the table or anything like that to put the balls in the same position. So what I'm going to do is basically put the 15 reds in a triangle, smash them up, maybe move any that are sort of awkward or on cushions or blocking each other, and then put the colours on their spots and then go from there. It'll be a video series of some description, I think. So as you see, I didn't do great at that in the room, but it did highlight that not only was I not cueing very straight, I was also maybe not lining up the shots properly. And it wasn't all to do with the walk-in, to be honest. There was a couple of shots where Colin just said, you missed that because you weren't aiming at the right part of the object ball. This was tough to hear because I really thought I'd got most of my angles down, except maybe the extreme cuts and things like that. So he suggested going back to some of the old or the earlier angle memorizing routines that we did in the first sort of few months of me seeing him. Those are the sort of black spot angles routine and the blue spot angles routine. I'll put cards up in the corner here if your device supports it. You can go back and watch them. So I'm probably going to go revisit them. I probably won't turn that into a video series because they've been well covered on the channel. But generally, it's just about trying to commit those potting angles to memory so that when they come up in a match, you don't even have to think about it. And the final thing was that I needed help with cueing at power. Now, we've already established that I cue to the left, and I knew I was doing this at power, but I thought it was only at power, but obviously I'm doing it all the time. But it's much, much worse when I play with power. And the other thing I do is I drop my arm when I'm playing with power, and raise my head slightly. What this is doing is, although if you look at this shot, I'm addressing the center of the cue ball, I'm feathering to the center of the cue ball. When I actually deliver the shot, although I pop the ball, I actually end up striking the top of the cue ball, which is why I'm nearly going off. To fix this, there's no simple fix, there's no routine I can do. It's just a case of concentrating on delivering that cue straight and trying to keep still when I'm playing the shot. It's just something I need to just get into my muscle memory, the same as cueing straight. Maybe I'll start filming myself a little bit more with the camera facing front on, and I can just sort of keep going until I find something that feels and looks right, and then just trying to keep replicating it. So to sum up the session then, I was really disappointed at how I played during this session, but you could argue, and Colin probably would as well, that it would be better for him to see me struggle while I'm there rather than tell him at the start of the session that I'm struggling and then go in and play amazingly during the session and there's nothing for him that he can see to fix. And it also hit home that I really need to practice what my coach has given me to do and not just practice the stuff that looks fun or I think is going to make the best YouTube videos. I need to do some of the grinding routines such as the cue trainer stuff and also the stun routines with the red just to get that going. I didn't get given any fancy new routines to show you, but don't worry, I have a couple of frames and matches which I've already filmed ready to show on the channel. I've also got more matches arranged over the next couple of weeks which will hopefully make it onto the channel too. And I'm also working on my very own practice routine from scratch, so that will be a first for the channel, and I hope to have that ready sometime in September. Thanks for listening to me ramble on. I hope you like this type of video where I sort of go over my coaching routine. I actually did another one of these quite a while ago, so if you wanted to, you a bit of nostalgia, or if you're new to the channel, click on this video here and you can go back and watch that one and see how I compare. And I'll catch you in the next video.